Let's talk about the Steelers a little bit. Okay, still waiting to figure out exactly who the quarterback is. AFC North schedule right there. And Adam, what are the plans at quarterback for Pittsburgh?
Laura, there's a mandatory minicamp in June, and you would have to figure that if there were a quarterback on the street who was considering retirement and wanted to play for Pittsburgh, that would be an ideal time to come into Pittsburgh before then. And if one Aaron Rodgers decided to come into Pittsburgh, there would be ample opportunities to have his own little revenge tour, starting in week 1 at the Jets. Week 2, Seattle. We know the history he has with that organization.
It's a DK Metcalf revenge
Week 4,
game.
the Minnesota team that would not take the chance on him. Week 8, the Green Bay Packers. Week 12, the team he owned, the Chicago Bears. Week 16, the Lions.
Okay.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better schedule if you're Aaron Rodgers.
Did they make this schedule with Aaron Rodgers in mind? I mean, go ahead, Dan.
Let's be honest about the Steelers' schedule. To Schefter's point, the start, you're not playing just world beaters to start the season.
Not a murderer's row, Dan.
12 out of your 17 games, and I know every season's different, 12 out of your 17 games are against teams that did not make the playoffs last year. And the only game that they have that is against a playoff team from last year on the road is November 9th at the Chargers.
Where he can be in his precious Malibu and walking on the ocean.
So 5 games
literally
this year
walking on
are
the
against
ocean.
opponents last year, only 5 that went to the playoffs, and 4 of those 5 are at home.
And here's the thing, though. Those first 4 games before they get to the bye, every one of those teams has a quarterback situation that you would take over Pittsburgh's. Every single one.
I mean, I think you could say that about.
Well, that's my point. See, that's what, to me, throws everything up in the air for this football team.
That's a fair.
I don't care. We can assess the schedule and slice it 1,000 different ways. Every single team's quarterback situation right now on that right there.
Lewis,
Would you take Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Look at that start of the schedule for the Steelers and imagine that Mason Rudolph is the quarterback.
Yeah, and
Do
you
you
know
feel like with what he's got around him, they would still do well there?
No.
No.
I think you're staring at 0-6
I mean,
in the face.
like honestly, I mean, think about the Jets.
Love you, Mason.
I mean, I'll tell you what. Aaron Glenn will blitz him into oblivion. The Seahawks, Mike McDonald, that's a pretty good defensive coordinator. All right. And with the Patriots, Mike Vrabel with that new defensive line up there in New England. The Vikings with Brian Flores, with the man, come on.
And this is an offense
Like that right there.
It's an offense that's only DK Metcalf right now on the perimeter.
I also said this on NFL Live yesterday. I was fascinated to see how many primetime games they would give the Steelers without knowing who the quarterback is. And they don't have 8 primetime games. They don't have 10 primetime games. It doesn't feel like the NFL is saying, oh, this is a Super Bowl contender and Aaron Rodgers is that guy. It seems like this is a middle-of-the-road team based on the schedule they got.
Adam, give us that date again where we might see one Aaron Rodgers feel like he needs to show up for the minicamp.
Well, I think the mandatory minicamp is June 10th to the 12th. And if that's the case, I think the clock starts on Aaron Rodgers about a week before, roughly. And if he doesn't show then.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
How much longer is Mr. Rooney going to wait for this?
What's the option?
I know.
What's the option, Lou?
Well, the option. I mean, there's always another option, which is to say, hey, look, we're just going to move on, right?
It's not a 7th-round draft choice, but it's a 6th-round draft choice in Will Howard.
Hey.
Can't forget him.
Ohio State fans will tell you Will Howard won a national title.
I like Will Howard.
Okay.
I do too.
And he had some good football games. Look,
Maybe
quite honestly,
Could
you see a scenario where Will Howard beats out Mason Rudolph and winds up starting?
I've seen Davis Mills
happen.
start week 1.
I'm not. Of course, we've all seen quarterbacks start who go. I'm just saying. I'm saying head to head. Could Will Howard eventually be the best option for them?
It does illustrate the pickle that they are in. Continue a little tour here around the AFC North. So the Ravens are in a really interesting spot. We talked about this on NFL Live today, how they've been so close, but yet haven't been able to get it done. Ravens fans are tired of hearing that they're such a complete roster. I mean, Peter, you said that earlier. You think this is the most complete roster in the league. As you look at that schedule, how do you think they fare?
They always are a great regular season team. And this is not fair to the Ravens that I'm saying this, but they're going to win 10 games. They're going to win 11. What now has become the standard is, what are you going to do in January and February? They save these weird, enigmatic finishes for the end of the season when they usually get hot during the season. So this is a loaded schedule. We can go game by game if we want. The truth of the matter is, I think we're all looking at January and what that team's going to do and if they can put it all together when it matters most.
I point out the final 6 games again. I mean, that is a murderer's row. You get the Bengals twice. You got the Packers. We'll see what the Steelers are. They're going to have a good defense. New England's going to be much improved. So that final 6-game stretch is tough.
Look, the Ravens can play it any way that you want to play it. They can play it however you want. You want to spread it out. You want to pack it in. You want to play, black and blue football. This is about a mentality. This is about making plays when they need to make plays. We've seen it. We've been down there a couple different times, talked to this football team, and you sit there and you watch them and you go, how do they lose? How do they lose games? It's totally mental, and I don't know how you really evaluate that at this point.
2 road games in the first 7 weeks. At Buffalo, first Sunday night, at Kansas City in week 4. Those are 2 interesting road games to open their road schedule with this year.
Yeah, there's a few that you really look at and say, all right, those could be big tests for them early on. And then, like you pointed out there at the end, I mean, Dan, that is a tough way to end it. Let's talk about Cincinnati a little bit, okay? The Bengals won 5 straight to end last season, but missed the playoffs at 9-8, largely because of their slow start. We talked about it so much last year that they were an offense that deserved to be in a championship at the very least, and their defense is what let them down. But it's been a common theme for Cincinnati recently. In the last 3 years, the Bengals 5-10 in the first 5 weeks of the season compared to 25-10 the rest of the way. Dan, how do they start a little faster this year? Trey Hendrickson, of course, still out there. They haven't figured that out, but they did, of course, make sure they're going to have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase for Joe Burrow.
Have to win week 1, obviously. I actually think that this schedule sets up decently for them because we've talked about Cincinnati's slow starts, but also new defensive coordinator Al Golden. Defense was the issue last year. You play 2 teams offensively right now that you sit here and go, I'm not necessarily overly concerned about them. Minnesota week 3, we'll see what J.J. McCarthy becomes, but we don't know how good their offense will be. Denver, defensive-led football team. So you're thinking about September, you don't have to play an unbelievably explosive offense till you get to that 5-6 stretch with Detroit and Green Bay.
Yeah, you figure they have the assets and the continuity on offense to be able to deal with all those teams right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And maybe, considering the quarterback questions in Cleveland, we don't know how Trevor's going to react to Liam Cohen. We don't know about J.J. yet. We know about Bo Nix, but you know what? Hey, I think Cincinnati has a chance to kind of jump out there early on and let their defense and let Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator, get them going.
And they've been the slowest starting team in the NFL, bar none. And so this is a great chance to go quick.
They've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row, and this is Joe Burrow's time. Like, if you start missing the playoffs 1, 2, 3 years in a row, I'm not putting you in that conversation with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Like, Burrow's that guy. This should be a playoff team with that roster and that schedule.
You see week 1 at the Browns. Let's talk about the Browns. I mean, Adam, this quarterback room is one that has us all fascinated. What would you say is your prediction about who ends up being the starting quarterback? Let's go down the line here. Who do you think is the starting quarterback for the Browns week 1 against the Bengals?
Put it on the spot, Lord.
Oh, boy.
I'll start. You want to start on this end? If I'm the Browns, Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders will be my starting quarterback.
Why?
Yeah, because I either want to see if I struck gold and lucked into it like teams like a Derek Carr did for the Raiders or a Andy Dalton did for the Cincinnati Bengals or a Jalen Hurts did for the Eagles.
Russ did for the Seahawks.
Exactly. So I want to know if one of those guys, or I have 2 first-round picks next year, and I want to get to one of those 2 first-round picks for a quarterback next year. So I'm starting one of those rookies, and they're going to play the great majority of my season.
For me, I think the question becomes who's really making the decision about which quarterback's going to start.
Go on.
Okay, because offensive coordinators and head coaches want to win games. So if Joe Flacco is out there and he's leading the charge and this offense is looking pretty good in training camp, Kevin Stefanski's going to go, hey, Mr. Haslam, Joe Flacco's the best quarterback we got. Well, if him and Andrew Berry go, hey, but you know what? We just kind of want to take a look at Dylan, want to take a look at Shedeur, and we want to see what we got here. I think that's the battle right there.
I'll just say this. It's very rare a team in 2025 would keep 4 quarterbacks. My bigger question is, who is it on the opening day roster?
Well, that's the big thing. I think it's one of those 2 veteran quarterbacks, and I think the other veteran quarterback starts. One will be the starter, one won't be there.
Traded or cut?
I don't know. Just depends how it plays out.
If I'm
so who you betting on in that regard then?
What's that?
Who are you betting on in that regard then to be the starter?
Right now?
With those conditions, with those parameters that you set.
Joe Flacco.
Right. That's how I see it too.
Kenny Pickett would be the odd man out, if you
I see it that way.